You have to build it around Bruno. I think you have to build the team around Bruno. He's the one player with quality. He has got fight in him. I think the young players, and then I think all the other players get rid of him.
Sorry?
The reaction there to Wayne Rooney saying, just sell the rest of them, was quite funny. But that was Wayne Rooney speaking after Man United's 3-2 win over Newcastle. And the keep or sell list is a big one for Manchester United this summer. What I'm going to do is run through what Rooney said there, take a look at who that keep list would be, who that sell list would be, and what ones I agree and disagree with. And you can let me know in the comments below. But Wayne Rooney, before I get into this video, right, I want to say this about Wayne Rooney. Immediately, he's a bit of fresh air on, a breath of fresh air on Sky as a pundit. He kind of says things without thinking, which is kind of what the reverse of what a lot of pundits do. And I think it's quite a refreshing take. The thing I would say before we get into this video properly is Wayne Rooney gave a little bit more detail, and he was asked about Onana, he was asked about Martinez and Rashford, and he's not as if he's booting every single one of them out. But what Wayne Rooney is doing is basically thinking, of all this squad, who do I think can get Manchester United back to winning the Premier League again? Because that's what he had. And of course, the squad is big. It's bloated. And there's a lot of people leaving. We already know that Martial is gone because his contract's expiring. We already know that Varane is gone. Johnny Evans might not get it renewed. And Amrabat maybe likely going back on loan. But in terms of keeping, if Wayne Rooney, according to him, you keep Bruno Fernandes and the young players, this is his keep list, right? So these are by young players, I'm going players who are aged 21 or under. Now, I completely agree on the Bruno Fernandes situation. I think anybody who's been a subscriber to United People's TV long enough knows that's the case, right? And when it comes to the youth team players, not the youth team players, but the younger players, Mainu, Garnacho, and Højlund, look, right? They're all on the wall there for good reason. I'm keeping all three of them. In terms of the other younger players who have made an appearance for United this season, I hope I haven't missed any. I've probably missed a couple. But Willy Cambuela, Amari Forson, and Ethan Wheatley, who's just won Jimmy Murphy Player of the Year award. And by the way, the last two winners of that were Garnacho and Mainu. So good luck to him. But in terms of the sell list, this is where it's long and it's interesting. Now, of course, this cannot happen in one summer. And I don't really think that's the insinuation from Wayne Rooney. It's more to the point, who of this list would he have the energy to defend and say they should be playing for Manchester United, given that in Wayne Rooney's eyes, he wants Manchester United to be winning the Premier League again? Now, of course, there's a few names on this list that I am going to bring across to my keep list. All right. And I want you to let me know in the comments below, which of these players would you be willing to sort of defend, which is kind of the main purpose of this video. All right. And there's a few. First up from that list, I think I would defend Andre Onana. Now, is that going to be controversial? I don't say it's going to be controversial. But I fully believe that once we play the style of football that I think we signed him for, which I believe is going to be our game model next season, we're going to see far more from Andre Onana. I actually think he's been slightly better than people were giving credit for, but he made a lot of high-profile errors, and they'll be remembered. So Onana would be on my keep list. Who else am I going down here and argue? It's not necessarily saying I want them booted out straight away, but who would I actually argue with chest and like get into an argument about to keep at the club? Maybe I wouldn't get into an argument about Diogo Dalot, but I would keep Diogo Dalot. Now, Diogo Dalot is somebody who I've kind of chopped and changed my mind on. I thought that Wan-Bissaka should be kept, and then, well, I haven't. I'm going to do my own sort of keep-sell list at the end of the season, like complete after all is said and done. But I'm just pulling this across from what Wayne Rooney is saying. So I think it's an interesting conversation after that game yesterday. Who else we got down here? Johnny Evans, Lindelof, Maguire, Malacia. I don't really see any of them being a Manchester United player in 2 years' time. And I guess and that's a big thing that what Wayne Rooney is doing here. This is not something that happens overnight. This is like over the next few windows, say 3 years or so, 3-4 years, which of these players do you think will actually be at the club? I'm not really going to argue for any of them. I would argue for Lisandro Martinez. And I think Wayne Rooney would as well, if asked again. Martinez is something that this team just does not have enough of. Seriously. Who else you got down here? Wan-Bissaka, I'm not really going to argue for. Amrabat, not really going to argue for. Casemiro, not really going to argue for. Eriksen, not going to argue for. Hannibal, not going to argue for. And while I do think that Scott McTominay should be kept now, I don't think he'll be here in 3 years' time, there or thereabouts. So I'm not really going to argue for that one either. I can't really argue for Mason Mount right now. I hope the next season he proves that he's going to be the player that we signed him for, player that we spent 60 mil on. But right now, I'm not really going to argue with chest for him. Neither am I going to do it around Pellistri, nor Van der Beek, nor Anthony, nor Sancho. So I actually agree with a hell of a lot of what Wayne Rooney has said. Didn't really realise how much. And Marcus Rashford. Do I think he'll be here in like 3 years' time? Because that's what I'm doing in my head. Listening to what Wayne Rooney's saying. Do I think Rashford will be here in 3 years' time? I don't know whether he will be. I don't actually know whether Rashford will be a United player next season. I think it pretty much exclusively depends on whether or not somebody comes in with an offer that's big enough. Because I think Rashford, if Manchester United say to Rashford, we've received an offer of X amount from whether it's PSG or somewhere else, we're considering accepting it, I think Rashford would walk down that path. So it actually is quite a small list of players that I'm not even sure if Omari Forson's got a long-term future at the club, but I think next season he's absolutely here. But look how short that list is. How many players we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of, how many is it overall? Let's go back to this. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. So that's 8. 20, 30. A lot. I can't figure out the maths. There's too many things in my head right now. But that's as short as my list is. And look how long that sell list is. And I think that really goes to show you about this scale of this rebuild, man. I consider myself quite a reasonable United fan. And the reason Wayne Rooney is there saying, I'd only keep the young players and Bruno Fernandes, I pretty much sell the rest, is because he's thinking, what players would I back? If I was in a team, what players would I back to help me get towards bringing Manchester United back to the top table? To Manchester United winning the Premier League, which is why Wayne Rooney is taking a bit of a ruthless opinion. And that is like the definition of ruthless. And I would be surprised if a lot of that list, obviously there's some names I've taken off it, and there's some that I put into the keep list. But the overwhelming majority of that list is correct. In the next 3 years, the majority of that list will not be at Manchester United. But which of those do you agree with when it comes to what Wayne Rooney's opinion is? Who would you keep from this list? All right, you let me know in the comments below. At the end of the season, I'm going to do my full, complete keep or sell according to everything that's happened this season, and actually who I think will go. And I'll add priority lists, because that's a big thing, right? You might get all of these players that you want to get rid of, but in terms of priorities, who goes this summer? That's important. You can let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please do consider dropping a like on it.